Girish Khilari, sir, you have joined as a attendee. Please join as a panelist. Am I audible? Amar, sir? Amar, sir, am I audible?
Sir, Amar sir has not joined yet. I am Shivraj, the host. He'll be joining soon.
Okay, okay. Because Girish Khilari, who is one of the panelists, he has joined as a attendee.
I have made him the panelist, sir.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Shivraj. नमस्कार सर.
नमस्कार सर, नमस्कार.
हो हो, तुमचं हे इमेज अशी हे झाली आहे, सरळ सरळ करायला पाहिजे.
बरं बरं.
अशी ती हॉरिझॉन्टल आहे,
ते-
वर्टिकल व्हायला पाहिजे.
अच्छा, ओके. एक मिनिट मी चेक करतो.
हा, आता बरोबर आहे.
आता बरोबर आहे का?
येस येस येस.
बरं बरं. आणि व्यवस्थित दिसते गिरीश सर?
हो, थोडस जरा आहे ना, अजून जरा म्हणजे ती कम्प्युटर थोडा खाली जायला पाहिजे, म्हणजे इन द सेन्स तुमचं. हा, आता बरोबर. येस, बऱ्यापैकी. म्हणजे अजून थोडा खाली गेला तरी चालेल.
आता
गुड इव्हनिंग
हा,
सर.
आता. हा, माने सर.
बाकल सर, गुड इव्हनिंग.
माने सर आहेत.
हा, येस सर, गुड इव्हनिंग.
गुड इव्हनिंग. गुड इव्हनिंग.
गुड इव्हनिंग सर.
गुड इव्हनिंग बाकल सर.
Good evening, Khilari sir.
गुड इव्हनिंग. गुड
Pendse sir, good evening. Good evening, Pendse sir.
Good evening, Mane sir.
Good evening, sir.
गुड इव्हनिंग ऑल.
Nada,
गुड
sir.
इव्हनिंग. नमस्कार
Mukta
सर,
sir,
शिंदे
good
सर. गुड इव्हनिंग
Mukta
सर.
sir, good evening.
गुड इव्हनिंग सर. गुड इव्हनिंग माने सर.
Good evening, sir.
We will have to check our video settings, sir. Please switch
My
on and
video
check your
is
video.
now it is
Those who are going to speak, they please check their videos. माझा व्हिडिओ व्यवस्थित दिसतोय सर?
येस.
माझा पण जरा कन्फर्म करता का?
हा हा. गिरीश सरांचा व्यवस्थित दिसतोय. गिरीश खिलारी सर, I
माझं
can see.
दिसतंय का व्यवस्थित?
ओके.
मुंदडा सर, माझं दिसतंय?
अजून अद्याप नाही दिसत. आता खिलारी सरांचा दिसतोय मला.
माझं दिसतोय का?
नाही, अजून व्हिडिओ ऑन नाही तुमचा.
आता?
नाही अजून. हा, आता आता झाला. येस.
सरांचा दिसतोय. हा, माने सर दिसताय तुम्ही.
ना व्यवस्थित?
येस सर.
म्हणजे
येस सर. येस.
येस.
सर
दोज हु आर गोइंग टू. हा सर.
पूर्णपणे सगळं वरचं.
अच्छा, ओके. आता
आता येतोय व्यवस्थित. हा, नाव इट्स व्हेरी क्लिअर.
येस सर. येस. थँक यू.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Mane sir, Mundara sir,
सर, गुड इव्हनिंग दावरा सर.
गुड इव्हनिंग. गुड इव्हनिंग.
राईट. गुड इव्हनिंग.
Khilari. Good evening,
येस.
Shende.
Good
Good
evening.
evening.
गुड इव्हनिंग गोपाल जी.
Yes, please check
How are
everybody.
you?
Video is right.
Good evening, everybody.
Yeah, good evening, sir. Turn on the videos and check for each other. Because if you are on mobile, you cannot see your own video. So you have to see that we are properly framed.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
My video is properly framed, sir.
Yeah, you're almost just one side, I think. One side.
Yes, sir. Is it okay or need to be adjusted?
You're not in the center, I think. Now you're. Now you're. Still little outside.
Little outside. Yes. Now. Because if I put it like this, it gets tilted, I suppose.
नहीं ठीक है सर, मुंद्रा सर, वो ठीक है पहले वाला.
अपसाइड
नो नो नो,
Upside down हो गया.
वो दिख रहा है, आड़ा दिख रहा है तो.
ये इधर साइड में जा रहा
हाँ ये सही है, ये सही है, ये सही है. दिस इज द पोजीशन.
है. Okay, okay. Thank you.
Good evening, Ghosh sir.
गुड इवनिंग सर, गुड इवनिंग, गुड इवनिंग.
हिवाळे सर.
There, Hiware, Jagdish Chaudhary sir. Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
सर गुड इव्हनिंग.
Am I audible now?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. And video is centered properly
Yes.
because I removed headphones now.
That invitation card is seen.
Girish sir, scientist दिसतोय.
हो ना. काय बदल करू का, अजून आहे वेळ तर? नाही ना.
नाही नाही, एकदम छान दिसतंय.
हो ओके ओके, थँक्यू थँक्यू.
You are as young as I saw you in PICT.
थँक्यू.
मुंदडा सर, तुम्ही काय शिकवलं नाही ना खिलारी सरांना?
नाही नाही, त्यांच्याकडून शिकलो आम्ही, माने सर.
तुम्हाला ऍज यंग एज आय सॉ यू इन PICT म्हणून मला वाटलं की तुम्ही त्यांना शिकवलं.
याचं क्रेडिट सगळं तुम्हा सगळ्या मित्रांना जातं. तुम्ही मला चिरात तरुण ठेवलं.
एक पुस्तक तुम्ही आम्हाला घ्यायला लावलं होतं लायब्ररी मधून, C++ चं गुरुप्रसाद काहीतरी नाव होतं.
राईट, बरोबर बरोबर. येस येस, आय रिमेंबर.
सर तुम्ही नवीन कंपनी चालू केली का?
कोणी?
तुम्ही नेक्स्ट पाथ नावाची?
हो, ती आहेच, माझी जुनी होती ना अगोदर, याच्या अगोदर तीच होती माझी, ती पण आहे. हा, याच्यात ते दिसतंय का तुम्हाला नेक्स्ट पाथ?
नाही नाही नाही, ते तुमचा एक ईमेल बघितला मी, नेहमी इलियट कडनं येतो, ते एकदम नेक्स्ट पाथ कडनं आला म्हणून विचारलं.
हा येस येस येस, ते जुन्या याच्यावरनं पाठवला मी कदाचित, त्यामुळे ते तिकडनं गेलं असं. राईट.
Sir, please keep a check on the attendees and guests. One of our council member, Mr. Brahma Reddy sir, have joined.
Okay.
He was SDG of II and now he is council member from Hyderabad. He has joined, sir. Welcome, Brahma Reddy sir.
वेलकम सर.
Namaskar, Kharaadkar sir.
सर खराडकर सर, गुड इव्हनिंग.
Dr. Nilesh Kasat sir have joined. West
Kasat sir.
Zone Mentor, IETE.
Yeah.
Sir, good evening.
कासट सर नमस्कार.
नमस्कार.
Shete sir, namaskar. Good evening.
Pendse sir, good evening.
Good evening.
नमस्कार.
Good evening, everyone.
गुड इव्हनिंग.
Girish sir, namaskar.
नमस्कार नमस्कार.
नमस्कार नमस्कार सगळ्यांना.
येस.
सर नमस्कार.
बरेच दिवसांनी लोक दिसत आहेत, चांगलं वाटतंय.
नमस्कार, सर आहेत.
हा.
माने सर आहेत. नमस्कार.
मुंदडा सरांमुळे शक्य आहे सगळ्यांना.
मुंदडा सर शेर आहे का नाही? मुंदडा सर शेर शायरी
शायरी है आप लोगों की वजह से है सर.
आज एकदम फ्रेश पाहिजे का शेर?
फ्रेश है सर. सिर्फ आपको पसंद आए। और जब अमर सर थोड़ा तब सबके माइक खोल देना ताकि तालिया की गूंज सुनाई दे।
अरे वाह 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 वाह।
Yes, sir. Ajay Thakre sir have joined.
ठाकरे
He is-
सर, कासट सर, वेलकम.
सर नमस्कार.
Yes, sir.
हिवाळे
Hiwale
सर
sir,
नमस्कार.
welcome. IET chairman have joined.
गुलाने सर, वेलकम.
Yeah, Gullane sir, principal, PREC.
व्हेरी गुड सर.
अरे वा, शेंडे सर जॉईन झाले, वेलकम.
येस सर.
Welcome.
माने सर नमस्कार.
नमस्कार
शेंडे
नमस्कार.
सर.
मगाशीच मी नमस्कार
शेंडे सर,
केला. तुम्ही
नमस्कार.
बहुतेक. येस येस.
Mukta madam has joined.
Yeah, joined. Madam has joined. Good evening.
Yes.
Joshi madam. Mukta madam.
Good evening, our theme speaker, Mukta Joshi Pendse madam.
Yeah.
So madam, welcome. Good evening.
वेलकम, वेलकम मॅडम.
Unmute.
Hello, good evening.
Please,
all.
yeah.
गुड इव्हनिंग, गुड इव्हनिंग.
Mukta madam, good evening. Hello, Hiwale sir, am I audible?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes, you are audible.
Yes. Okay, thank you sir, thank you.
Dr. Anuradha Thakre madam have joined. Welcome, madam.
Hello sir, good evening. Thank you sir, thank you.
Good evening. It's 5 more minutes. Hopefully,
yes.
by that time, our chief guest will also join. Bakal sir.
बाकल सर जॉईन होत आहेत. आता मला आला होता फोन.
बर.
त्यांना लिंक मेलवर पाठवून दिली परत एकदा.
बर.
हो.
आपल्या ग्रुपवर पण टाकलेली आहे.
हो,
ती पण
तेच.
पाठवली सगळ्यांना तर सोपं जाईल.
नाही, मिळाली आता त्यांना लिंक वगैरे मिळाली सगळं.
सर आज
Okay,
काय झालं,
okay.
आज फार लिंक आल्या सर एकदम 22 तारखेच्या फार फार जास्त आल्या आज लिंक आपल्या.
हो ना, फार लिंक
Good
येतात
evening,
ग्रुपवर.
Khadkar sir. Good evening, Dr. Khadkar.
गुड इव्हनिंग, गुड इव्हनिंग सर.
Shete.
गावरा सर, वेलकम.
Good evening, sir.
हा, नमस्कार सर. हा, बोला ना. हो, व्हॉट्सअप वर पाठवतो. ओके सर. ओके, लगेच पाठव.
आराधना मॅडम पण जॉईन होत आहेत.
गावरा सर, अलीकडे काही भेट नाही तुमची.
करायची आता.
Correct, you are right. Because I don't know about it. Nobody goes, of course, you must be going to colleges and all.
Aradhana madam has joined.
We have to go.
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes.
Madam, your voice is low. Seems to be low.
Now? Hello?
It is okay.
Not yet. Very feeble voice.
Hello? Hello?
आणखी थोडा आवाज पाहिजे होता.
Okay. I will try. Hello. Good evening, Amar sir.
Good evening, madam.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, madam. Mukta, madam.
Now it's a clear voice.
Okay,
Yeah.
wonderful.
Mukta ma'am.
Hello, Mukta. Hello, Mukta
Hi.
ma'am. Am I audible? Hi.
Yes.
Anuradha here. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't see
Welcome.
your video, but thank you.
We'll start shortly.
No problem.
There is query from many people saying their audio and video is not working. So audio and
Oh.
video is being working for panelist member only. For attendees, it will be unmuted by
Yeah.
our comparer at the time they are supposed to speak. As of
Yeah.
now, comparer has switched it off for all the attendees. Was I audible?
Yeah.
Yes. By default, by the WebEx, the audio and video is off for the attendee.
Mm.
Bakal sir, welcome.
Welcome to Bakal sir.
Sir, namaskar.
Sir, welcome.
Welcome,
you,
sir.
sir.
Welcome.
Bakal sir, namaskar. Welcome.
नमस्कार बाकल सर. नमस्कार नमस्कार नमस्कार.
Good evening, Bormane sir.
Good evening, Bakal sir. Good evening,
Good evening,
Bormane sir.
हमारे सर नमस्कार.
बोरमाने सर, व्हिडिओ चालू करा म्हणा.
त्यांचा नाही होणार ना.
त्यांच्या नाही होणार.
हा हा. वेलकम वेलकम बोरमान.
अटेंडन्स हे नाही.
1 second.
It's 6 o'clock. Can we start the program?
सर नमस्कार.
सर नमस्कार सगळ्यांना.
Sir, should we start now?
Thank you. Good evening, everybody.
I think we should start.
Yes, with permission of all chairman and all our guests, let us start.
So,
Yeah, Amar sir.
Yes, yes. So myself, Dr. Amar Buchde, organizing committee member. So good evening all. So today we are celebrating World Telecommunication and Information Society Day. This is arranged uniquely by 4 professional bodies: IEEE Pune Local Center, IETE Pune Center, IEEE Pune Section, and IET Pune Local Network. With this, I request Dr. Girish Mundada, convener of this event, to give the welcome note.
Thank you, Amar sir. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Good evening all. I, Girish Mundada, convener of this program, welcome you all to the celebration of 53rd World Telecommunication and Information Society Day. The theme of the day is accelerating digital transformation in challenging times. The theme speaker is Mukta Joshi Pendse Madam, scientist from Philips, Netherlands, and chief guest is Dr. Jagdish Ji Bakal, President IETE. This program is hosted jointly by the Institution of Engineers, India Pune Local Center, Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, IEEE Pune section, the Institution of Electronics and Telecommunication Engineers, IETE Pune Center, and the Institution of Engineering and Technology, IETE Pune Network. This collaboration of 4 professional societies for this World Telecom and Information Society Day over last 7 years is very much promising and encouraging towards the goal of this day, as it presents a unique Pune model of sharing and caring. It demonstrates unity in diversity and elaborates networking need for all professional societies to enhance and advance further in the professional mission. I wish this collaboration of 4 societies to last forever for this World Telecom and Information Society Day. To conclude on welcome speech, my organizing team of 20 plus elite members always encourage me for what they call as shairi. So here I recite these 4 lines to welcome you all, which is composed for this day by myself. आज की शाम आप सबके आने से पावन हुई है। आप कहोगे इसमें अनोखी क्या बात हुई है, क्योंकि जहां आप जाते हो वहां सब पावन हो ही जाता है। तो आज की शाम आप सबके आने से पावन हुई है। आप कहोगे इसमें अनोखी क्या बात हुई है। जग में कोविड से मुक्ति पाने की होड़ मची हुई है। जग में कोविड से मुक्ति पाने की होड़ लगी हुई है। गौर करें 2 शब्दों पर, जग और मुक्ति। गौर कीजिएगा इन 2 शब्दों पर। आज की शाम आप सबके आने से पावन हुई है। आप कहोगे इसमें अनोखी क्या बात हुई है। जग में कोविड से मुक्ति पाने की होड़ लगी हुई है। और आज इस मंच पर जगदीश जी और मुक्ता जी के होने से महफिल सजी हुई है, महफिल सजी हुई है, महफिल सजी हुई है। धन्यवाद सभी का इस कार्यक्रम पर स्वागत, और आपने इसको खूबसूरती प्रदान की है। थैंक यू एवरीबॉडी। ओवर टू अवर IEI chairman for that. Thank you.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. I myself, KK Ghosh, Chairman of Institute of Engineers, Pune Local Center, welcome you all for the 53rd celebration of World Telecom Day and Information Society Day. I welcome on this occasion, I welcome Dr. W Bakal sir, President IETE, for sparing his valuable time and gracing the function. And I also welcome Mrs. Mukta Joshi Pendse for accepting our invitation for giving the theme talk on accelerating digital transformation in challenging time. On this occasion, I also welcome our associate organization, Dr. Engineer Girish Khiladi, Chairman IE Pune Section, Dr. Neha Sharma, Secretary IEEE Pune Section, Dr. R.D. Kharadkar sir, Chairman IET Pune Section, Pune Center, and Dr. V.V. Sete, Secretary IET Pune Center, Dr. Hiwale sir, Chairman IET Pune Local Network, and Dr. Anuradha Thakre, Secretary IET Pune Local Network. I welcome you all on this occasion, along with my immediate past chairman of the Institute of Engineers and the convener of today's function, Dr. Girish Mundra sir, and the organizing team, which has done a very good job for last so many years to come across all these, to bring all these for the 4 institution or the professional organization on this occasion. And I request all these organization, it is only every year only we are meeting only for one time. We should accelerate this. We should do all these similar type of activity throughout the year, so that this Pune model will be because as Pune model is very, as Dr. Mundra sir has told, that Pune model has given you people that how these 4 organizations are coming together. So on this also behalf, I also invite Dr. Dattatreya Bormane sir and Brahma Reddy sir, council member, and all the participants. Thank you everybody. Over to Kharadkar sir. Oh,
Good evening.
yeah.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes.
Good evening. Today, chief guest, Honorable Dr. W Bakal, sir, President of the IETE. Today's resource person, Mrs. Mukta Joshi Pendse, Madam. Chairperson, secretaries, EC members, governing council members, office bearers of Institution of Engineers, IEEE, IETE, and IET. At the outset, on behalf of the IET, I welcome all the dignitaries, technocrats, industry persons, academicians, and students for this function of celebration of World Telecommunication and Information Society Day. Really, it is a very wonderful event which have been organized from last 7 years, and the collaboration of the professional bodies is very strong, and I hope the same will be continued in future also. We celebrate the World Telecommunication and Information Society Day on 17th May, which is the International Telecommunication Foundation Day also. They call it as a birthday. This year's organization, for this year, the theme given is accelerating the digital transformation in challenging times. All of us, we know that we have been passing through very critical phase of COVID-19 pandemic. World has been experiencing COVID pandemic from last 2 years. The digital transformation involving ICT finds applications in identifying, tracing, understanding, managing, treating, and perceiving the pandemics. Apart from this, digital transformation has been driving our daily life by offering the platforms like e-commerce and e-education. The theme given is very relevant. The pandemic has created the challenges like maintaining the social distance, regular hand washing, ventilators, management of the migrant workers, and other related issues. The IET has been actively involved in creating awareness about the use of digital technology to accept the challenges of COVID-19. The IET, you know, is the India's one of the leading recognized professional society devoted to the advancement of science and technology of electronics, telecommunication, and IT. It is founded in 1953 and it is spread all over the India and abroad also. The Pune center of the IET is one of the largest center in Western India. It has 46 ISFs and 10 organizational members. The center organizes technical activities like paper presentation, project competitions, resource lectures, workshop, FDPs, seminars, skill development program for the benefit of all stakeholders. The IET members and ISF has been accepting the challenges and giving solutions using the technology. Our senior fellow member, Captain retired Rustam K. Bharucha, has successfully developed a ventilator which was appreciated by government agencies and medical fraternity. We congratulate Captain Bharucha, sir. Our ISF students have successfully developed an AI-based system to assist the migrant workers, and they won the second prize in the hackathon organized by IBM and NASCOM among 45K plus participants consisting of startups, working professionals, and students. IET has been offering the platform for students and academicians and researchers to share their research and innovation. During the last year, IET Pune Center has organized 46 plus resource sessions of experts, and the domains include blockchain, artificial intelligence, machine learning, e-mobility, automations, IPR, incubation, innovations, etc. I am thankful to all the engineering colleges and the ISF chapters, especially the MIT, AISSM, JSPM, Sinhagad College, Bharati Vidyapeeth, Raisoni Group, and many more. Because of the limitation of the time, I cannot address all the colleges and organizations. IET Pune Center publishes the annual research journal also. The center conducts the monthly knowledge series, and we cover the topic like national education policy, ventilator technology, yoga and mental health in this resource series. On behalf of the IET Pune Center, we appeal all the technocrats to actively involved in the activities of the IETE. IETE offers membership at different levels, which include student membership, professional membership, fellows, and senior fellows. IETE also established the national awards to appreciate the research, development, innovation in relevant domains. For more information, you can visit our website or visit our Pune center, which is at Erandwana. Once again, on occasion of the World Telecommunication Day, we extend our best wishes. I am very much thankful to Dr. Mundada sir and all organization committee team who have been taking great efforts from the last 2 weeks to make this program successful. I am thankful to all the professional society for collaborating for this program. Thank you for giving us the opportunity.
Thank you, sir. So I request Mr. Girish Kelari, sir, Chairman IEEE Pune section, to speak about IEEE.
Sure. Thank you so much. Kharadkar sir and Ghosh sir has already talked about today's event and then the theme. So instead of wasting further time, let me welcome on behalf of IEEE Pune section Dr. Bakal sir, Mukta madam, and then Ghosh sir, Deshmukh madam. Then Neha Sharma madam, who is our secretary, IEEE Pune section, Kharadkar sir, Shete sir, secretary IET, Hiwale sir, who is the chair IET Pune local network, and Anuradha Thakre madam, secretary IET. This is such a wonderful opportunity, and I would like to take few minutes talking about IEEE at global level and at IEEE Pune section. So IEEE Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, as we all know, is the world's largest professional organization. There are more than 400,000 members, 4 lakh members, spanning across 160 countries. And more than 60% of those are outside United States. There are more than 1,05,000 student members across all these countries. There are 342 technical sections in those countries, and then the 2562 chapters of these sections are spread across all 10 geographies that IEEE is spread into. There are 39 technical societies and 7 technical councils. Talking about IEEE Pune section, so it was established on June 26, 2010, with terrestrial boundaries confined to Pune metropolitan cities. So postal code 4110012 to 411999. The section falls under the jurisdiction of Asia Pacific region. That is, we also call that as region 10. So IEEE is divided into 10 regions, and Pune section falls under Asia Pacific, that is region 10 of IEEE. So prior to that, it was the subsection of IEEE Bombay section since June 2003 till its formation. So at present, the Pune section has more than 300 professional members and over 1,100 other members, including student members. And there are 19 IEEE student branches in different engineering colleges in and around Pune city. So this is like IEEE Pune section serves as the larger community that houses IEEE members from all the colleges at Pune, which have IEEE student branches and at their institutes. So it has several chapters such as communications, computer, education, instrumentation and measurement, power and energy society, industry applications society, signal processing society. It also has various special activity groups such as affordable agriculture, which is like formed in 2019, and it is really going great. We have 10 affordable agriculture labs across various universities and colleges in and around Pune. Then we have award committee, we have student activities, then we have conference, industry relations is under Dinanath Holkar, who is our immediate past chair. Healthcare is a new special interest group that we formed in October 2020. Membership development and website and newsletter activities are some of the affinity groups that we have in Pune. So more than 100,000 skilled engineers, professionals are working in and around city, and the strength of students studying in various disciplines in the city exceeds 200,000. So there is a huge collaborative research opportunities with all these institutions that are coming together today on this World Telecom Day. So let's come together and bridge the gap between industry and academia. And without taking much time, we all are waiting for Mukta madam and Bakal sir on their respective speeches. So with that, I once again welcome each one of you, and I encourage each one of you to become a IEEE member as a chair of IEEE section, Pune section. Thank you so much. Over to you, Amar.
Okay, thank you, sir. Now I request Dr. Anil Jawai, Chairman, IET Pune Local Network, to speak about IET.
Amar, am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, sir. You are audible.
Okay, thank you. Dear panelists, Chief Guest Dr. Bakal sir, Theme Speaker Madam Mukta Joshi Pendse, and all the attendees present for this particular event. Good evening to one and all. As mentioned by other colleagues, a couple of years, IETE, and IETE in Pune, they come together to celebrate World Telecommunications and Information Society Day. This must be a unique case, I suppose, jointly organizing such an event. It shows an excellent cooperation among these professional societies for some good cause. Friends, the IET has turned 150 this particular week. So as a chairman of IET Pune Local Network, and on behalf of the IET Pune Local Network office bearers, I wish everyone here a happy 150th anniversary of the IET. This particular year, 2021, is an important milestone for the IET. The IET is one of the world's largest professional engineering institutions with over 170,000 plus members spread in 150 countries. The IET has the largest membership base outside of the UK, and IET India office is in Bangalore. I mean, IET India has the largest membership base outside of the UK. IET's vision is to engineer a better world, and the entire IET community is working for that. How do we that is by inspiring the next generation of engineers and technicians, by influencing the engineering community about the developments in engineering and technology, and by influencing people who should know what engineers do and appreciate the work of engineers. Under the aegis of IET India, there are 8 local networks, and IET Pune Local Network is one of them. We have always been trying our bit to initiate and support various activities so as to become the most relevant and therefore the most preferred institution for engineering and technology professionals in and around Pune. IET Pune Local Network has been established almost 10 years before, and the credit goes to the founding chair, Dr. Madhuri Joshi ma'am. With her, many other colleagues have contributed, and they are instrumental in shaping Pune Local Network. IET Pune Local Network has 2 academic affiliate partner institutions. They are MIT World Peace University and Walchand College of Engineering, Sangli. Earlier, COEP was also there. And there are many other student chapters. We call them students on campus. IET believes in bringing together the experts from the industry, academia, research, and government to address the issues of the day. The various sector focus areas where IET is contributing all over the globe are like sustainability, future of mobility, climate change, future of technology, and so on. There are many sector focus areas where IET is contributing. IET Pune Local Network is doing its best in conducting activities to improvise the competency and skills of engineering community in and around Pune. Every year, we support for quite a good number of student development activities, like workshops, seminars, training programs, and so on under young professionals of IET Pune local network. Last year, we almost conducted 24 plus events for students. We also support the faculty development programs. We support women in engineering activities, business meets like IoT business meet, wherein people from academia and industry can participate. Tech Dias lecture we arrange every year. The speaker of the day, Mukta Joshi Pendse ma'am, she delivered a Tech Dias lecture that we arranged last December 2020. So that's about IET. On behalf of IET Pune LN, I once again welcome everyone to this particular event. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. I request Dr. Anuradha Thakre, Madam, Secretary IET Pune Local Network, to tell the audience about the theme.
Thank you, sir. The theme of World Telecommunication and Information Society Day, WITS 2021, is Accelerating Digital Transformation in Challenging Times. World Telecommunication and Information Society Day has been celebrated annually every 17th May since 1969 to mark the founding of International Telecommunication Union (ITU) and the signing of the first International Telegraph Convention in 1865. The digital transformation is happening all around us. Information and communication technology sustain life, work, health, and learning. The COVID-19 crisis has not only highlighted the critical role of information and communication technologies for continued functioning of societies, but has also brought to the fore the startling digital inequalities between and within countries. ICTs ensure access to healthcare, education, and essential goods and services for billions of people. Radio communications, telecommunication standards, and telecommunication developments all support growth, inclusiveness, sustainability, innovation, and partnership. International Telecommunication Union (ITU) accelerate digital transformation, strengthen cybersecurity, develop national emergency telecommunication plans, foster innovation and infrastructure, build effective partnership. Together, we can make humanity safer, stronger, and more connected. Digital technologies are vital to fulfill the promise and build resilience against future challenges. Celebrating WITS 2021 is an opportunity to continue to push for digital transformations by promoting national strategies on ICT development, smart policies to encourage investments, cooperation, and partnership. So let's promote together universal connectivity to make the transformations equitable, safe, inclusive, and affordable to all. Thank you. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Madam. Next, I request Dr. V.V. Shetty, sir, Secretary IET Pune Center, to give the introduction of
present. Yeah. Respected dignitaries present for the function. Very good afternoon to you all. We are honored by the presence of the Honorable Sir Dr. W Bakal, sir, President IET New Delhi, and MRS Mukta Joshi Pendse, Scientist Philips, Netherlands. We welcome you, sir. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce the chief guest of today's program, Professor Dr. W Bakal, sir, President IET New Delhi. Presently, Professor Dr. W Bakal, sir, is working as a President IET New Delhi. It is his second term as a President. Professor Dr. W Bakal, sir, is also working as a Principal, Shivaji Rao S. Zone College of Engineering, Dombivli. In addition, he is appointed as a Director in charge of School of Engineering and Applied Sciences, University of Mumbai, Kalyan. He has completed MTech, EDT, and PhD in Computer Engineering and has 32 years of industry and academia experience. He has published more than 100 papers in international journals and international conferences and several papers at national conferences. He has 7 patents on his credit and more in process. He was a chairman Board of Studies, Information Technology, University of Mumbai. He was Chairman, Board of Studies in Computer Engineering and member of Board of Studies in MCA, University of Mumbai. He is a PG and PhD guide in University of Mumbai. He has guided 11 PhD research students and more than 50 students. He was member of Academic Council, Research and Recognition Committee of University of Mumbai. This year, Vice Chancellor appointed him as a Chairman, Board of Studies, Computer Science and member of RRC. He worked as Principal, Bharati Vidyapit College of Engineering, Navi Mumbai. He is actively involved in the development of IETE Mumbai Center. He has served IETE Mumbai Center as a Chairman, Vice Chairman and Honorary Secretary for more than 8 years. During his tenure, he, as an Honorary Secretary, IETE Mumbai Center got its own premises at the heart of city in Chembur, Mumbai. He has organized several international and national conferences successfully. ATC 2009 was one of these.
Hello, sir.
I think Shetty sir got disconnected.
Okay.
So we welcome Mukta Joshi madam. Thank you madam for accepting our invitation and gracing this occasion. Thank you Bakal sir. Thank you sir for gracing this occasion. Amar sir, next.
Yes, sir. So I request Dr. P.B. Mane, Chair IEEE Communication Society, Pune chapter, to give the introduction of keynote speaker.
Thank you, Amar sir. A very good evening to one and all present for the celebration of World Telecommunication and Information Society Day. My wishes to all. I am Dr. Pradeep Mane, Principal of AISSMS Institute of Information Technology, Pune, Chair IEEE Communication Society Pune section and Treasurer IET Pune section. First, I would like to take this opportunity to thank Dr. Madhuri Joshi for suggesting the name of our today's keynote speaker. I am privileged to introduce our keynote speaker, Mrs. Mukta Joshi Pendse. She is currently working as scientist in Philips, Netherlands, and previously worked with GE Healthcare. She completed her graduation from College of Engineering Pune and her MS from Washington University in St. Louis. She has over 22 years in the field of medical imaging. She is involved in multiple stages of the product development life cycle, from concept, ideation, and research to road mapping, productization, and clinical adaptation. She is an engineer with a passion to bring meaningful solutions that address clinical problems. She has led multiple projects with increasing level of responsibilities, working at both GE Healthcare and Philips Healthcare. These have spanned various imaging modality, including CT, ultrasound, and image-guided therapy, bringing innovations to clinical practice. She has authored several publications and also has patents to her credit. I'm very sure that all of us gathered here will take away the insights of her today's talk on accelerating the digital transformation in challenging times. Thank you, Mukta madam. Welcome to you, and over to you, Amar sir. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, sir. So I request to Mukta madam to address the audience.
Okay, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes, madam.
And others, I request to switch off their videos so that streaming continues seamlessly. Thank you.
Namaskar. I want to share my screen. I can do that.
Amar sir?
Yes, madam. I have made you as a presenter. You can share the PPT, madam.
Thank you. All right. Please let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes.
Yes, screen is visible, madam.
Yes, yes.
Perfect. Just making sure I see you folks. I can't see you folks anymore. Okay. All right. Well, good evening, everybody. Thank you very much to all of the organizing committee. There have been several people I can hear have worked very hard to make this happen. And I'm really honored to have been invited for this very special occasion. Thank you to Dr. Joshi for inviting me. And I'm humbled as well by the company that I'm in. So I really commend everybody here for all of their efforts in the field and their creativity and diligence in making the world a better place. As somebody said, the mission was of these institutions. So thank you again for inviting me. Before I start, I wanted to explain my talk. Indeed, I was told about the theme of the World Telecommunication and Information Society Day of accelerating digital transformation. So I'm going to talk about how communication and collaboration in these challenging times have been addressed, and I will give a few examples from Philips, because that's where I work and I have the most direct, detailed information. So I will share those. And I also have a part of my talk that is based mostly just on medical imaging and advances in CT and image guided therapy. So we will go through different things along the way. I do request, I want to first acknowledge that my talk today itself is a digital transformation. Normally, I think such talks and events would happen in person, and it would have been more challenging. Not impossible, of course, but more effort to for me to have been there, and much more costlier for everybody involved. So this is the acknowledgement of the digital transformation that's already enabling this to happen for me to be here in Netherlands, talking to all of you in India. But on the other hand, what I would like to say that the digital medium doesn't allow me to see you and how you are responding to my talk. I really like it when it's interactive, but I know that's a challenge. So I do encourage people, if that's okay, that they post comments and questions in the chat. That also tells me as a speaker how it's going. But of course, you know, if you have questions, I would love to answer them. I think we're going to have a little bit of time after the talk to address questions. So please participate actively. This is about communication, and so let's make sure it's both ways. And then before I start, of course, I would like to just talk about the fact that we are in this pandemic and it is unfolding and it's affected the whole world, but particularly in India, the last few weeks have been very difficult. So my heart goes out to everybody out there. I think most, if not all of us, have been touched by this pandemic in different ways. So I really want to acknowledge and share my feelings about this. It's difficult times, so let's all. All I can say is hang in there, be strong, continue to wear your masks and do the social distancing. Let's all do our part, but of course help as and however we can. So just wanted to say that before I start. If there are any questions or comments, or else I will start my talk. Yeah. So indeed, as mentioned, I work for Philips and I'm a digital innovation leader currently, and I'm working within the image guided therapy division. So just keep in mind, Philips is a very large company, so I'm only a part of it. I've also worked before in computer tomography, so this will reflect in the examples that I show you. Let's see. So I think I have about 1 hour. Hopefully with some time at the end. Okay, great. So the agenda today, I will share some recent examples of digital transformation within Philips, because that's what I can talk about most. And we will see how Philips has had to react to the challenges posed by the pandemic. Then we will go into the medical imaging side of things and talk about the driving forces in healthcare in general. with a brief history in there. I'll show and share a latest innovation in CT and then in IGT as well, a couple of innovations, and we'll talk about the future. All right. So what will you take away from this talk? The examples that I say about how we're tackling communication and collaboration during these pandemic times, how we approach innovation in health technology in general, the latest advances in CT and IGT, and of course the future possibilities. And that's where there's a lot these days. What do I expect from you? A very small basic awareness of Fourier transforms, 12 standard physics, a little bit, an open mind, that's the most important thing, and your attention for 60 minutes. I know 60 minutes is a long time, especially being digital. Everybody's got some screen fatigue, so I do appreciate you folks hanging in there with me as I go through this talk. So hopefully it's not going to be boring, a boring lecture. So I'm going to go into these recent digital transformations that we've had to do in Philips. But overall, before I touch on that, this is the statistics from the US that were published, I think it was in 2020, that there are trends in the use of telehealth among health centers during the pandemic. So we see this shift, right? People had started using telehealth, but as you can see from the survey, it was about 43% in 2019. Well, as the pandemic hit and all of us went into lockdown, this had to be accelerated. And you've now seen 95% of health centers are reporting that they are doing telehealth in some form. So the pandemic has really accelerated the need to do this. In the past, telehealth was seen as a little bit of a luxury or a nice to have, but it has obviously started to show its benefits, and now it became a necessity. So this pandemic really pushed people to think of along this line and make open these possibilities faster. In India, in fact, there was a study done by McKinsey that if we were to replace 30 or 40% of in-person consultations by telemedicine, we would save $10 billion by 2025. That is huge, right? Of course, there are a lot of challenges to implement this in India, and that's where I think people like us and all the societies that have organized this today play a really important part in making it happen. It's a tremendous opportunity to disrupt the current status quo and the way we work, right? In medicine, we're in a reactive medicine form, right? When something is wrong is when we go and seek medical help. We could become proactive. I mean, we see this happening around the world, but I think for India especially, it's a big opportunity, and it requires a lot of changes in various fields for it all to come together. But that only means that it's an opportunity to make it happen. So I think some people were already mentioned many interesting innovations. I think a lot is happening in this field in India. So I encourage all of you in this field to look at this opportunity and find ways where you can add value and bring, as I said, meaningful innovation to the population and increase, especially in India, it's so important to increase the access to care. There are so many regions and people that the pandemic has only shown how big this problem is and opened the problems that are there in the system today. There's so many vulnerable parts of the population that we just cannot reach. So we have an opportunity here to make a difference. So now I will go into the impact that the pandemic has had on the operations in Philips. And as a medical device or health technology company, we obviously wanted to keep sustaining whatever our customers are already using from us and support them during this pandemic. And also, of course, continue our business, so the business continuity. So these two aspects were hard hit because they are very heavily require personal face-to-face communication and collaboration. So one of the first things it impacted was services, right? We serve our customers where we have equipment installed, and we're unable to do that because a lot of those service and support calls were done in person. We were present at, let's say, difficult procedures to guide our customers how to use the machine during these procedures. We couldn't do that anymore. We were involved in clinical training to enable them to be more proficient in using the system and be more efficient. We couldn't do that anymore. We couldn't be there in person and show them the nuts and bolts and how to operate. So this was a really big impact, and we needed to think of how to overcome this so that we could continue to support our customers. So what we did is, especially in this particular example, is related to image-guided therapy. So these are these CR machines that are used in minimally invasive procedures. And there we did what we are calling now the Philips Collaboration Live solution. Here we actually put a camera into the cath lab. So this is the catheterization lab. And we've enabled video and audio in and out directly integrated into the system. So this is essentially, you can think of this as a Skype on steroids, or Zoom or WebEx. Well, we are on WebEx right now, right? But it's that kind of an application, but on steroids. I say on steroids because it's right inside and integrated into the interventional X-ray system. And it not only is there and present, so it's sort of looking over your shoulder when you need it and being able to guide you. It is also making sure, of course, all this happens with a proper privacy and security. So this is the technology that we have underneath that allows us to do that. And it has enabled, of course, these application specialists that we have in the field to do support cases in the field. And follow-up training, as I had mentioned, which was not possible otherwise, but also unplanned support. So when there's troubleshooting, the system may have some glitches or problems. We were also able to use this mechanism to address that versus just have more and more delays in being able to help and bring that system back live. So for this problem, we had to satisfy constraints. As I mentioned before, there are privacy and security concerns because we are dealing with patients and patient information, as well as staff information as well, with doctors and nurses in there. Everybody is worried nowadays, of course, about security and privacy of their data. So we had to design whatever we did to comply to norms and standards that are out there in things like HIPAA. Just going to run my pointer on. So we had to make sure that our network was encrypted and compliant. And then also timing, right? We don't want a lot of delay, so we needed to do real-time sharing of video and audio and through the Big Flex Vision screen. So there were some technical challenges here, but we made that happen. So what we had to do was a holistic solution, right? Not just satisfy the problem, but make sure everybody involved was appropriately treated and enable what was not possible otherwise, except for going in person. So this is an example of how we accelerated this digital transformation, because prior to the pandemic, this was an idea floating around, but it wasn't an urgent need. This became an urgent need as soon as the pandemic hit, and our customers really welcome this solution. And it has, sorry, there is a, okay, there we go. And as I said before, it has never been more essential to improve our communication and collaboration. We are now able to support complex procedures, give this remote resolution of problems, and this way maintain the proficiency and efficiency of the departments that are using our systems. So there's a delay, I'm sorry. This type of technology is also used in an ultrasound, remote ultrasound guidance. So because you can imagine ultrasounds are used.
Madam, you can continue. You can continue.
So this similar technology we also use in remote ultrasound guidance. Same problem, right? You cannot always be there. So this type of solution also now transcends the pandemic, right? This has become useful especially for access to care. If we think about developing countries and situation in parts of India, this kind of technology can allow less specialized experts to also operate and do more complex procedures with this guidance, right? So you have sort of the the expert guiding you through the more complex scenarios, and you can still have those high quality outcomes without really having to have highly qualified experts everywhere. And we all know this is a big shortage of high qualified experts, and the doctor to patient ratio is extremely low. So this kind of technology can really enable the quality of care and the access of care to be able to be improved and widened. And so I think we've seen other solutions out there. People are creating apps that you can use with your mobile phones. Excuse me. So this is just an example from Philips, what's possible, but I think there are a lot of other examples in the industry, and we need to continue to think along these lines, even when we are past the pandemic, because access to care has been a problem even before the pandemic. And I think the pandemic has just exposed how big a problem that is. So we really need to continue to encourage and develop such innovations. Now I'm going to switch gears a little bit and talk to you about how we wanted to continue business continuity in Philips. So we have what's called the Philips Customer Experience Centers. So these are physical spaces in one of different sites around the world that we have, where customers are physically brought to these locations and shown various equipment, demonstrations, meetings, to be able to really see how the equipment would work, how does it set in a setting into the hospital, so people can imagine what it means to, if they wanted to buy one of these equipments. So it supports what's called the whole customer decision journey. And these centers host a lot of C-level engagements, executive meetings, and they also trigger experiences on what we call the whole health continuum. So Philips tries to play a role in the entire health continuum, from prevention to diagnosis, treatment, as well as post-treatment care. So this all these activities, these customer visitor centers, were a big player in bringing this kind of information to our customers. On average, an opportunity that was hosted by these centers could be upwards of 800,000 euros. So there was a big impact visits, and they were organized to bring multiple people from these hospitals, interested parties, to these centers. So as you can imagine, with the pandemic last year in March 2020, this entire activity shut down, right? So there were no face-to-face meetings. All of them were canceled. So you can see the statistics of how many kinds of different touch points we had with various ways with our customers that were just not possible anymore. So the main goal became, how do we keep these engagements running? And that way ensure business continuity. So this was the problem. With that, of course, we turned to digital transformation, and the customer experience center folks took on what's called design thinking, and tried to understand and figure out what the problem was, how they would address it, ideate, prototype, look at equipment, different ways that they could make it happen. And then it also required training of crew, because now you are presenting, as I am today, digitally rather than face to face. And then, of course, it required multidisciplinary people to come together and make it happen. And then they had to develop new things. They created a green screen studio that we didn't have before. They had to create a virtual platform. So there were all sorts of things that they had to come up with to really satisfy these needs. So this is what they went through, and now they are digital. And there we go. So the impact of this digital transformation has been quite interesting. Before, as you saw, the main center right now is in Netherlands that has gone through the digital transformation. These centers were regional, and so they tended to be able to cater to regions, localized areas geographically that could host and do all the things that I showed you before. And now, because they're virtual, they could go global. So their reach increased tremendously. There was no travel time. It became easier to schedule meetings because of that. So they also saw a C-level engagement increase from prior to the pandemic to after the pandemic. And their net promoter score went up as well between 2019 and 2020. So this is just one of many ways that digital transformation has impacted and had been taken on within Philips that I wanted to share with you. So I know that I have a lot of material to cover, so I'm going to go a little bit faster. So I'm going to move into the second phase of my agenda, which is going to focus on medical imaging and the forces that are driving innovation in medical imaging. So in healthcare, the world is seeing a tremendous increase in expenditure, and it's expected to go up even further in the next 5 years. Patients and societies, of course, we are looking for better outcomes, but also at lower cost, right? As I mentioned earlier, there is a shortage of skilled professionals. So these professionals then are under a lot of pressure and result in burnout for them. So this is a big problem in many different ways. And there is a lot of opportunities to be able to help this situation. But these are the driving forces. So the 4 trends, as I mentioned, we want to also be able to do healthy living. As I had mentioned before, we want to go from reactive to proactive. So we want to understand how we can help people manage their own health as well. So we see chronic diseases are on the rise. We have an aging population worldwide. We have a lot of pressure on the health systems that are there. People want to take control and of course want to see what's happening, and they should. I think we should all be informed patients. So the more you can know about your health and about how you're being treated, I think is better. It's going to also give better outcome. And then, of course, the digital transformation, right, that we've been talking about. There is just a tremendous growth in the data that's being generated. And I think we only want to generate more data. But the important thing is to be able to utilize this data and create some meaningful insights from this data, and then drive that cycle of being able to manage health. Something is wrong with the, okay, here we go. I won't belabor this point, but I think you understand that we have chronic diseases are on the rise, and things like diabetes and respiratory disorders are increasing it's partly our own making, right? We have changed our lifestyles, we have more pollution, so people are getting more respiratory diseases. And then we also live more stressful lives, and we see that there are 1 billion adults estimated to have hypertension. So to summarize then, the driving forces for innovation in healthcare today is driven by, of course, delivering better care, but to do that, to deliver that better care to more people and to deliver it at a lower cost. So these sometimes seem opposing, but this is what we need to be able to address. And let's not forget, while we do this, we also want to be sustainable. We all need to be much more aware of our impact on the world around us and the impact it is having on the planet. So we need to keep all these factors in mind. I mean, traditionally, you would stop at these 3. I wanted to add the 4th one because it always gets overlooked, and that's why partly we are in the situation we're in. So this is equally important to keep in mind as we innovate. So we want to, increase the value of service, but while being sustainable. Here we go. So how can we deliver better care? We can, of course, improve the accuracy of our results. We can innovate on procedures, which means we can touch a broader set of patients and the types of ailments that they need, that can be serviced. We want to leverage data, as I've mentioned before, and of course, in the digital transformation, data is the basis of this. So we want to really leverage the data and bring the insights where they're needed. And then we want to do all this, but of course, ensure better patient experience. We don't want to forget that at the heart of all this is a patient, a person, most likely someone we know, someone we love, ourselves at some point. So we don't want to forget as we do these design and problem solving exercises that we have a human element in this problem. So we want to be patient centric in our innovation approach. We want to deliver to more patients. So for be able to do that, we want to increase the efficiency in the whole process. And then when you do that, you also, of course, want to avoid errors. Otherwise, sometimes, where the haste makes waste, we don't want that to happen. We want to reduce contraindications, broaden applications. And again, coming back, there's people that are using these equipments and these solutions. So you want to also improve the staff experience. So I want to keep the end user and their workflow in mind to make this happen. And lowering cost, of course, I think by doing the other two properly, you could already cover some of that. When you increase efficiency, you can reduce cost. You reduce opportunities for error, you can reduce cost. And then, of course, data can be integrated in many different ways. So we are looking at how data from equipment can be used to predict failures, to anticipate problems, and reduce the cost of downtime. So if you can already have what's called predictive maintenance, then you can go ahead and try to address the problem before it happens and disrupts the entire flow that's already been set up. So in this way, you can really impact the cost of the total cost of ownership of your system. And so you have to think cost, not just of price, but it takes a lot of cost to maintain the system for years and years. So a lot of our equipment is in the field and in use for over 15 years. So if you think of the cost of the whole life of this equipment in the field, that's also something we have to keep in mind. And lastly, of course, as we said, sustainability. So we have a lot of efforts within Philips to ensure as much as possible that we have sustainability by reduction of harmful substances, by doing circular economy type of things where we recycle and refurbish systems, we recover parts, and eventually recycle before trying to really minimize what goes into landfills. And we are continuing to innovate in this. We have like sustainability days and sustainability hackathons coming up. So this is a focus that is being brought by the corporate folks as well. And it's really important and it's seen as something we all need to do. So I'll quickly go through what I call the brief history of medical imaging. So once upon a time, or there was a time when we couldn't see inside the body, right? And not until you cut it open. So not, non-invasively, you couldn't see inside the human body. In about 1895, William Röntgen discovered X-rays. And already by the early 1900s, you had what was called fluoroscopes that used X-rays as basically an X-ray camera to see things inside the body. And then also ultrasound came in the mid 40s and 50s. And then invention of the CT happened in 1967 with Godfrey Hounsfield. This was the first time we could see three-dimensional structures inside the body using X-ray. And then there was the invention of the PET scanner in the mid 70s, and of course the magnetic resonance imaging body scanner in the late 70s. So these are the major modalities. There are more, of course. There are optical coherent tomography and a few other things, but these are the major medical imaging modalities. They have different benefits in the way that they image. So some have more spatial resolution, able to show you anatomy better. Some have functional information, so actually show you metabolic activity and uptakes and things like that. So you see that ultrasound is on the lower end of spatial, and it does have some functional information when you do Doppler ultrasound and things like that. 2D X-ray can be very high resolution, but it doesn't show you any functional information. You get CT or computed tomography, which also uses X-ray and is able to see cross-sectionally through the body. It has pretty good resolution and can show some functional information. MRI, as I said, now you could do functional MR and a lot of other fancy sequences in MR. Its resolution is depends on the procedure, but comparable, if not a little less than CT. And then you have PET, positron emission tomography. it is really showing metabolic information. So it's really functional and its resolution is pretty low, at least today. And then what you do is hybrid imaging. So you have scanners that combine both CT and PET, and then you can combine the best of both worlds and get sort of a high resolution on the anatomical structural information and get the functional information coming from the other modality. So this is sort of a landscape of what happens in medical imaging. Now I want to zoom into a innovation in CT, and I'll quickly go through what is CT. It was we talked about it when it was invented, and it is really a general purpose modality. It's used for almost anything, finding internal injuries and trauma, diagnosis, disease, even planning treatments for radiation therapy and things like that. And it's from head to toe. You can do this for every organ in the body, and it's become sort of the go-to modality when you don't have a very obvious or specific indication. You can explore as well with CT. It's very fast. That's why it became the go-to scanner. It's one of the first modalities for imaging in the emergency department. And as you can see in the US, they had more than 90 million CT scans were performed, I think, in 2019, I think was the latest information I had. Of course, anything comes with its risks. It does have radiation risk and contrast-induced nephropathy, which means where you have to put an iodinated dye into your vessels to see the vessels, and this can cause problems for the kidneys. So there are a couple of contraindications, let's say. Advances over the years, as you can see, the first CT scanner had a very low resolution and it took a long time to make images. So this has, of course, changed over the years. We're talking about the late 60s here. So over the last 45, 50 years, even more, we see a vast improvement in the reconstruction times as well as the resolution. So we are much, much faster. And at the same time, we have also reduced dose. So this graph is showing you how the dose has also been reducing while improving the speed and resolution and image quality. So we've been able to address both problems. Quick theory, this is where I said, you might just need to at least know what a Fourier transform is, but here it's just talking about how it's used. Essentially in CT, you have an X-ray tube that rotates around a person with a detector on the other side. So if you also simultaneously move the table, you get this helical trajectory that can then cover the entire anatomy. And this can happen really fast. So the X-ray tube spins pretty fast. The table can move pretty fast. So you can have a head-to-toe scan in less than 10 seconds these days. So the fundamental principle of making images like this, because now you have a view from all the 360 degrees, is what's called the Fourier slice theorem and the radon transform. So this is how the X-ray source goes around together with the detector, and then you get this, which is called a sinogram. So as you know, when you go around a fixed object in a circle, you end up seeing a sinusoidal signal. And so this is what is really detected. Now you have to convert this into an image that somebody can interpret. So as you can see, this is the object. It should look something like this. So we do what's called back projection. And as you do this back projection, you see this image building. It isn't quite making the object that you see, and that's because you have much more samples in the center than you do in the periphery. So you have to apply, so you see this is the result of a back projection alone. You have to apply a filter to balance that out, and then you get something that looks very close to what the object was. So this is called filtered back projection. And then you can modify the filters further to have different texture, look, and feel on these. But that's what CT is. Now, quickly, I'm going to go into spectral CT, but for that, you need to understand what is conventional CT. So it is a measurement of the total attenuation of from a polychromatic, so that the X-ray tube has a broad spectrum. And basically the attenuation is proportional to the density of the object. So in a sense, what you see is a density distribution. And people, we know we've calibrated, it's a calibrated modality, so you can actually have measurements from air on the left down at negative 1000 Hounsfield units up to metal, which can saturate the signal. This is all great. It worked great for 40, 45 years. It served very well. It has always had a limitation, right? It cannot differentiate between, let's say, this right here, which looks like a stone in the kidney. But we don't know if what this stone is made of. It looks like the bone, but it may not be calcium. And here as well, you see high uptake, high attenuation areas. We don't know if that can be caused by clotted blood or it can be caused by hemorrhage. Two very different biological reasons and underlying disease. You cannot differentiate that. So these are limitations CT's had. And when you see this, you had to get another test. So that just causes more delay and more anxiety, more cost in the system, right? So this was our observation as well, that large percentage, 15 to 20%, you find things that you didn't think, you weren't looking for. If you're not looking for it, you didn't design your acquisition for it. It causes this anxiety and delay I mentioned. And then, of course, if you have too much contrast injected, that's also a concern, as I had explained before. So we wanted to minimize the time to definitive diagnosis, which means, I see something, but I don't know what it is. I'm going to have to send you for another test. So in this time, everybody is anxious. We don't know what it is. So what was the point of the test, right? We want to reduce the contrast agent that is needed to see things, keep the costs low, as we talked about, and also keep the radiation levels as low as possible. So coming back to that theme, if you remember the three things that we want to try to do. So we looked something called dual energy CT. So if you think of X-ray attenuation, there are two phenomena. We have Compton scattering and photoelectric effect. And to be able to separate and see the attenuation separately, you need two measurements. Today we only had one, so we had the total attenuation. But when you know that that attenuation is made of two components, you need two measurements. This is how dual energy or spectral CT came about. Keep in mind, this theory has been looked at and known for a long time, since I think the late 70s and early 80s. But it was never possible to make it into something that could be used in everyday practice. There are now 3 technologies on the market that can do this. The latest one that we released from Philips is a detector-based system. There are other what are called source-based systems. So this is an innovation that came to market a few years ago, and now further upgrades of this are, I think, being announced and released as we speak. So what is the power? What's the big deal of dual energy CT? As I told you before, there could be structures that you cannot differentiate. So in this phantom, you see that you think there's nothing here. It's all homogeneous, the same as whatever this material of this phantom is. But if you did dual energy CT, this is what you would see. See, it's actually made up of a material that has the same total attenuation as its background, but it has different Compton versus photoelectric effect properties, and you can separate those out. So this is showing it has very low Compton properties and very high photoelectric properties. But total attenuation is the same as the background, which is pretty neutral to both Compton and photoelectric effect. So this is what it can do. How do you apply it in real practice? This is where we were able to increase the patient population you can serve. This is called bone marrow edema. And in a CT, you could not see this edema. This is an MR image on the right. You see that when a knee, this is a knee joint that has had damage. When you have damage, then you get what's called bone marrow edema, and you can image that on MR. And this is the kind of thing you get after a fall or some sort of a traumatic event. As I told you before, CT is what you would scan on to check for fractures, but you wouldn't be able to see this. MR would show it to you. but you can't always afford or have an MR accessible to you. Now, with dual energy CT, you can see this. This is a CT image of the same knee that was imaged with the MR, imaged with a conventional CT. Now you can actually see it because we can suppress the calcium signal, and it can show you this non-calcium, non-photoelectric effect attenuation. So calcium has more dominant photoelectric effect. And now you can see it. This is just another color rendering of it, and you see the healthy knee on the left. So this is a new indication. We're going to serve more of the population, more patients. I will skip over these, go a little bit faster, but incidental findings, as I told you, these are findings you didn't plan and think were there, and now you don't have enough information to make a definitive diagnosis. It can help you with that. So this was the original example I showed you. Is this attenuation coming because of clotted blood, or because there is an iodine, they injected a dye in there? So is there blood being uptaken into this tissue, which could be a sign of malignancy? A very big difference. If it's just a blood clot, it's not a big deal. You still, there's ways to treat that. But if it's a malignancy, that's a whole different category of disease now you're dealing with, right? So when you differentiate iodine from water, so iodine has more photoelectric effect and water has more Compton effect, you see that it's all caused by Compton effect. And therefore there's no, and you also see that there's no iodine uptake. It's virtually zero. So it confirms for you, gives you a definitive diagnosis. This is not malignant. So it doesn't require another test. It does, they'll probably send this person to an ultrasound or an MR. It would take a week or two to schedule. All of that time, you're sitting at home thinking, oh my God, something really bad is happening to me. We talked about iodine burden. This was the contrast-induced nephropathy I talked about. So you want to reduce as much as possible how much you want to inject. So because of the power of boosting the iodine signal, you can actually drastically reduce the amount of iodine you inject. This is the quality you would get if you just had a conventional CT, but with a spectral CT, you can boost the iodine signal and get this. So this case is about 5 times less iodine was injected in this patient. So that is huge. Again, it allows to include patients that otherwise you could have said if their kidney function is low, you can't scan them like this. So you wouldn't get an answer. So this is a possibility that wasn't available before for these patients. So overall, as you can see, we increased tissue characterization. So we expanded capability, we maintained the dose, we lowered cost, and we brought ease of use. And lowered cost, you might ask how, was what I mentioned before. You reduce the need for extra tests, you reduce the time to get your answer. That's lowering overall healthcare costs to both the system and to the patient. So very briefly, I wanted to show the advances over the years in CT. You had a plain 2D stack initially, which then became a 3D isotropic volume. So now you could actually look at volumes, do volume rendering. Then further, there was visualizations of structures, so segmentation and things like that. Then there was 4-dimensional CT that actually looked at time series and can now give you functional information. So this is a functional map of the brain to look at stroke impact that can happen through a 4D analysis. And this is actually tracking a tumor in the lung as you breathe. And then tissue characterization is what I just showed you. We can now look at various types of tissues. And now, of course, we are in the era of digital transformation and looking at clinical decision support. So this is where it's going to come in with leveraging data, looking at outcomes, but it is a long process to be able to come up with something that is viable to be in the market. So this is the focus of the efforts now. So we have resolutions. I'm going to click through these, lots of so yeah, as I said, hardware was a focus, then reconstruction algorithms, image analysis algorithms, then a little bit of everything to bring functional characterization. And now, of course, we're in the realm of AI and data analytics. So at this stage, I want to shift over to IGT, so image guided therapy, and quickly tell you about why. What's the big deal? Why should we have image guided therapy? You can see again with aging population, there's a lot of pressure on quality and cost in surgical care. Of course, we want to improve the efficiency and also the outcomes, and we want to also reduce the risk with open surgeries. So you come to this era of minimally invasive surgery. Why minimally invasive? You're making smaller incisions. Because you're making smaller incisions, you are really reducing recovery time. You're reducing the opportunities for error, like we talked about, opportunities for infection. And that's why you need less time in the hospital. That's reducing cost for you. And just overall risk for the patient. Like nobody wants to have another infection, which is a different problem than the original problem you came for. So we want to be able to do this minimally invasive procedures, but have the same outcomes. So we need to maintain the quality of care, but reduce the risk and the cost. That's what's driving this. So there's a lot of trends here that are driving us to look at innovations in this space. I think we've touched on most of this. So most importantly, of course, we want to go from technology out to need driven. So the innovation needs to come from what are the unmet needs there. I want to zoom in. These are all the different areas that minimally invasive or image guided therapy is involved in. We're going to look at a quick example in spine. This is a very recent release into the market that we just did a few weeks ago. So why spine? Why look at spine? So there, again, a lot of statistics we get from various sources, but more than 500 million people suffer from back pain across the globe. And again, with aging population, even obesity in certain countries, this is becoming a bigger problem. And it was estimated that in 2023, 50% of these lower back fusion therapies will be done minimally invasive. So we really want to make these procedures become easy to use, easy to work with, less risky, better outcomes, faster. These can be very complicated procedures, take a long time to happen. And this is what I mean by the complications. You have multiple systems in the surgical suite. They don't all talk to each other. There is data that has to be manually moved. There are all sorts of reference frames and things that have to be manually adjusted and registered. It's tedious. It takes a long time, and it feels like, hey, are we in the 21st century here? We should be able to do this in a much better way, right? So double checking with our customers, what do they want to achieve? And that's an important question. You know, we all talk about being customer centric. We talk about what are the things we want, you know, people want. The key question you want to ask is, what is your target customer or user? What are they trying to achieve? So be careful when you ask questions. Ask what do they want to achieve, not what they want. They may want a pink ribbon on their machine. That doesn't mean that's necessary. So of course, the surgeon wants to improve his surgical, outcome, but with efficient workflow. The patient wants the best solution and minimal effect on his quality of life. Right? Nobody wants to be sleeping in a bed for a week. And then there's the manager, the OR manager, who wants to be able to invest wisely and meet the future needs. So with these in mind, we created what we call the augmented reality surgical navigation system. And now this should work. It's supposed to be a movie here. Come on. Where did it go? Oh my God, this was a really cool movie that I would like to show. Here we go. Can you hear it?
Yes.
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 Presents a unique augmented reality surgical navigation technology for your Philips hybrid OR. The technology uses high-resolution optical cameras integrated on the flat panel X-ray detector. Compared to how we did this before, it is quite easy. You
Position the patient as usual, then you place the skin markers, which are the patient tracking. Perform a 3D CT of that. For the replacement using the navigation.
Smoothly from imaging and planning to live video view and 3D augmented reality navigation in one view. This provides guidance to follow the right trajectory with any instrument. Tracking is needed. Want to see the tip of the needle? The cameras automatically detect it. This allows you to follow the needle as it progresses towards the pedicle with minimizing X-ray. Show procedures with a high-quality verification scan. This allows you to revise intraoperatively if necessary.
Augmented reality surgical navigation helps us to place pedicle screws in positions where we actually couldn't or wouldn't do that otherwise.
Operate with confidence and enhance your workflow with all-in-one imaging and 3D augmented reality navigation. At you.
Okay, so I hope that that they say image a picture is 1,000 words. I think the video is even more. So I think that's a really neat innovation that allows people, like he said, to do things they wouldn't or couldn't do before. So again, being able to innovate this procedure and reach more patients. My mother got these kind of, well, not the augmented reality, but a spinal procedure done. And believe me, we were extremely nervous because you are doing this procedure so close to the spinal cord. So anything that can guarantee or improve the odds, right, that we all are happy to have. So I can, in the interest of time, I'm going to go faster through this. So yeah, I mean, we reduced all that clutter and were able to do it with one solution, if you will, with integrated workflow. We also have an example in structural heart disease where we need the information from the ultrasound, the echo, and this is called the transesophageal echo. So they put a probe through your gullet to see the back of your heart. And then you also need X-ray to see other catheters and the devices. So you need both to visualize, but it's been very difficult to visualize these two in two different reference frames. And it took highly skilled echocardiologists and needed really long time to get it right. So we solved this problem. See, this orientation is completely different. So we reorient and merge the modalities into the same orientation, much easier to interpret, much faster to use. So that's what we have today. It is embedded with the ultrasound machine and also integrated into the interventional X-ray system. And this requires leveraging anatomical intelligence, but also some artificial intelligence in figuring out how to align these structures and landmarks. And then you get this dynamic overlay of the cardiac structures as well as you are imaging. So lots of benefits. Again, in the interest of time, I'm going to go faster. The future, I think you guys would like to see. No, come on. Sorry. This is supposed to play as well. It's a movie. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. What happened? I'm sorry. It played yesterday. Darn. Some technical glitch. I'm sorry. All right, here we go.
Excuse me, there is no sound at all.
Oh, you can't hear?
Yeah.
There's only music, so last time we were able to hear it. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I don't know why I didn't share the sound this time. But So next. Oh boy. So I just wanted to show that as what's coming, in the future, how we are virtual reality is coming into the healthcare domain and into this surgical or minimally invasive surgical suites to be able to do this, because the doctors don't want to let go of their hands are needed and focused on what they're doing with the patient. So you don't want them to have to do other things and interact with touching all these other instruments. So doing this virtual reality with something like a HoloLens is what really helps them to be able to do what they're doing, but also virtually scan through all of these different things that they have to monitor and do. So that's the future of what's coming. Very quickly on the advances in CT, there's more on what we call energy discriminating detectors, and they allow you to do these nanoparticle imaging. So this is a gold nanoparticle example done in a rat, and you can do this what's called K-edge imaging and bin. You see all these energy bins, and you can start to differentiate specific materials, and you can do targeted imaging, and perhaps in the future even targeted therapies. So that's something that's in research phase right now. And of course, I can't have a talk these days, and especially with the theme of digital transformation, without artificial intelligence. So we all know, and I think you're all very familiar with the amount of exponential growth in health data that all of us are producing and hospitals are making. So there's a lot of reasons why and sources where this data is coming from. And just in 2013, which is already 8 years ago, there was gobs and gobs of data, and we're expecting to exceed 2,000 exabytes. So it's 1 billion gigabytes. So that's a huge amount of data. Where is AI in medical imaging already? So you do see a lot of publications and features and even products that are doing different things in medical imaging. So you see some for tumor detection, organ and lesion segmentation, disease prediction, registration, all sorts of things. FDA approved. There are a few that are related to workflow and triaging, which I think is also relevant for COVID. And then there's assisted diagnoses that are in some fields, especially in the stroke area. The people are looking at improving image quality using AI. And of course, as I mentioned before, a lot of research on clinical decision support, especially in oncology, and looking at the entire care pathway for different diseases, eventually to have better outcomes. So, the whole outcomes-based medicine. Now we have a way to really tap into this outcomes data and use and leverage it for treatment decisions. But it's still there are challenges, let's say. And of course, people have this fear that AI is going to replace the doctor and the humans in the process. And I honestly don't believe that AI is going to replace humans. It's going to only enhance their abilities and performance. We just talked about a huge shortage in qualified people around the world. So this should be seen as a way to help that problem and not a threat to replacing people. There are many AI-enabled products, even in the Philips portfolio. I won't dwell on that. AI in COVID. So since we are talking about the pandemic and the challenges it's bringing, I know of a few that are already got this rapid approvals. There's AI-based analysis of CT images for rapid triage for COVID patients, and also for detection of pneumonia on chest CTs related to COVID. So a couple of these related to CT already out there. So there has obviously been a very big push, and AI is being used for all sorts of analytics around COVID, geographical questions, outbreaks, and contact tracing. There's a lot of things that people are trying to apply AI for, especially with the pandemic. In the future, we have a vision for what we call the digital twin. So we talk about a digital transformation. We're trying to transform our entire representation of what happens to a person into a digital characterization. And there are many, of course, axes to this and different types of data. and profile that you would create to sort of define a digital of an individual. But there's a hope is that having all of this information, it can actually be leveraged to predict and to help treat any ailment that you may have, or even predict that you will have in the future, and then be able to do preventative measures. So, I mean, this is the vision, right? Very, very long term, but that's where people are moving towards. Now, AI, everybody talks about AI, wants to use AI in everything. Of course, there are a lot of challenges, especially in medical imaging. So one has to make sure you have very good quality data. And so data curation and annotation is key. At the same time, you need lots of data to have good algorithms. Patient privacy and data security versus this need is getting, is an opposing forces. People are showing a lot of publications. Most of them are from single institutions. So when these algorithms get used at another institution, they have oftentimes failed or shown much lower performance. And that's partly because it's very difficult to get data from many institutions. And because institution to institution, there's a lot of variation, not just the people, the population they serve, but also the way that they're producing this data. So the settings on the machine, how the images may be acquired, all of this has an impact. There are a lot of metrics people show to say, oh, I have very high accuracy or performance of my algorithm, but it's not always reflective of the clinical situation. So one has to be careful. It's not always easy to compare different algorithms. There are biases in the data. There are a couple of many big papers that have come out on the bias that has been involved in different studies. So there is a lot of challenges, but challenges, of course, come with it, bring opportunities. So there's a lot of research going on to address these challenges, and I encourage all of you, if you enter this field, keep an eye and understand the whole problem, all the aspects around it, and just figure out how to address it. These are not impossible to get over, but if you go in with this knowledge and understanding, you can create a more robust and a more comprehensive solution that doesn't fall apart as soon as you give it different test data, right? So keep that in mind. And then there's a trust issue. So there's this what's called a black box effect. So people don't trust what an AI algorithm is making. So we also need to look and work on how to make it more explainable. So there's an explainable AI research as well. And then I will again go through it very fast, but to integrate, we need to look at integrating these offerings into a seamless so that we can give a complete disease-focused solution. So there's lots of bits and pieces happening, but I think to be able to have real, precise, and personalized care, you need to look at the bigger picture. And I want to just end on this note. We talk about digital transformation, and to really transform, a organization has to transform as well. So it's not just about the solution. When you have a large organization that produces and manufactures scaled, where we are making equipment at scale, the organization has to transform as well. So we want to figure out how to deploy in the cloud and leverage data and continuously get this flow. So it requires a lot of changes around the organization, and to be able to do this sort of 24/7 engagement when you have things deployed in the cloud, be able to change your processes to do that and serve according to that. And yet you also have to stay compliant and follow the regulations. Make sure you are protecting privacy and security. So there's a lot of different things to consider when you do a digital transformation, and especially of an organization that hasn't been doing that before. If you've been creating boxes or devices or even software, but then once you ship them, they're out there, and then you don't worry about them as much, or you worry about them once in a while. Now you have to worry about them continuously. So there's a shift and a change in how you also bring digital transformation to be sustainable and maintain your products along the life cycle. And so in conclusion, I just want to say, let us all aspire to be responsible citizens of the world, and let's innovate to make it a better place. And I want to leave you with quotes. I like to do that. I have a few scientists that I'm fond of. Marie Curie said, nothing is in life is to be feared. It is only to be understood. And I thought it was very pertinent right now. So now is the time to understand more so that we may fear less. Richard Feynman, one of my favorite physicists, said, and this one's, I think, all the more important, especially in India. At least I know how I was schooled. So we always told, failure is a bad thing, don't go wrong. But in fact, as you get older, he says, you realize wrong isn't a bad thing, like they teach you in school. It's an opportunity to learn something. So please keep that in mind. It's okay to fail because you learn a lot from that. And don't take it as a reflection of your competency, but more of how do I succeed next time? And then Dr. Abdul Kalam, of course, he said something very interesting, is creativity is seeing the same thing, but thinking differently. So with that, I want to thank you all for your attention. And I'm open to, if we have time, for questions or comments. Thank you.
Madam, can we take questions after Chief Guest speech?
Wonderful presentation.
Okay. Excellent session by Madam on advances in medical imaging for diagnosis and treatment. So I request Honorable Chief Guest Dr. W Bakal sir to address the audience. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam.
Good evening to one and all. Am I audible?
Sir, you are audible.
Hello?
Bakal.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You are audible.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Mrs. Mukta, scientist, Philips, Netherlands, our distinguished keynote speaker for today. And Netherlands is very close to my heart because my son is there pursuing his PhD in Technological University Eindhoven.
Oh, I'm in Eindhoven.
He's in Eindhoven, like
Yes,
pursuing his
yes,
PhD.
I'm in Eindhoven.
Thank you, Mukta. It was a wonderful presentation. I will say, like, it was full of contents and giving total, Philips, how Philips has moved from beginning to and believe in quality. That was the overall impression of mine, and it was very informative and very impressive, I will say.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I tried not to be a Philips spokesman, but at the same time, I can only go in depth for Philips products. So I didn't mean this to be a Philips selling session. Just that's what I have my.
Whatever you carried out, that you presented, and I say, like, because we have the soft corner for Philips, it's a quality. That's why I say. Thank you, Mukta. Then we have Professor Dr. G.S. Mundada, convener of the function, Professor K.K. Ghosh, Chairman IIPLC, Sri Girish Khilari, Chairman IEEE, Pune section, Dr. Anil Hewley, Chairman IET Pune Local Network, Dr. R.D. Kharadkar, Chairman IET Pune Center, Sri Kishore Shende, immediate past Chairman IET Pune Center, Dr. V.V. Sette, Dr. P.B. Mane, Dr. Anuradha Thakre, Dr. A. Deshmukh, Dr. Amar Buchade, honorable members of IET, IEI, IEEE, IET, my colleague in Governing Council of IET, Delhi, very dynamic personality, West Zone mentor, Dr. Nilesh Kasat, honorable members of all three bodies, IEI, IEEE, IET, and IET Executive Committee members of IET Pune Center, past presidents and Governing Council members of IET, distinguished audience, guests, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening to one and all. I am indeed glad to address you all today on the celebration of World Telecommunication and Information Society Day being hosted by IETE Pune Center in collaboration with three of the very eminent professional bodies, IEEE, IET, and IEI. I applaud the endeavors of the chairperson and executive committee members of these organizations for the successful conduct of this event. Most of you may be aware that the Institution of Electronics and Telecommunication Engineers was founded in 1953 with an aims and objectives of dissemination of knowledge in the field of electronics, telecommunication, and IT. IET serves more than 1.25 lakhs members through its 63 centers spread all over India and abroad. It is India's leading recognized professional society devoted to the advancement of electronics, telecommunication, computers, and information technology. Developing and improving technical and professional competencies, particularly in the working environment, is the greatest challenge that professionals face today. To help members avoid technological obsolescence and to achieve the mission of advancing the profession, IET offers access to latest development in the field of technology via conferences, workshops, publications, and brainstorming sessions. IET celebrated the World Telecommunication and Information Society Day every year at its headquarters and centers across the nation. On the theme chosen by ITU, this day marks the foundation of ITU and signing of the first Telegraph Convention in 1865. It is celebrated with an aim to help raise awareness of the possibilities that the use of internet and communication technologies, ICT, can bring to society and economics. This year's theme was chosen by ITU, which is intention to utilize this day to unite the world in pursuit of digital transformation in every field of business and all aspects of life. COVID-19 pandemic has accelerated the pace of digital transformation, including rapid migration to the cloud and move to work from home. Organizations have had to find way to quickly implement digital solutions to allow for productive and efficient remote working conditions. Digitization has skyrocketed this year in almost all sectors. Notable among the driving forces of this boom are the fundamental changes to consumer behavior, especially to growing shift to online channels. Under lockdown and wary of infection, consumers have warmed to the idea of using e-commerce for everything, from grocery shopping to financial transactions. As consumers turn to digital channels, businesses have made their best efforts to meet these shifting demands. The fact is that face-to-face interaction or brick and mortar visits all but evaporated during lockdown. So the only access point to consumers shifted online. As a result, the share of digital customer interactions around the world is 3 years ahead of where it would be in the pandemic hadn't occurred. Whether these changes stay or not, the pandemic has certainly taken digital transformation efforts to levels that few anticipated until last year. I congratulate IET Pune Center for the successful conduct of this event. I believe the deliberation all over the world on this World Telecommunication and Information Society Day will explore the most popular and exciting applications of digital transformation in various sectors and assess the impact of these changes on mankind and business. Thank you very much. Over to you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bakal sir. Amar sir. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Over to Dr. Aradhna Deshmukh, madam.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. Am I audible, sir?
Yes.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. All the dignitaries online, all the members and joint audience, everyone who is present here Myself, Dr. Aradhana Deshmukh, present here a vote of thanks. It is a great privilege and pleasure for me to present this. In these pandemic days, these words, which is provided by our keynote speaker, Mrs. Mukta Joshi ma'am, who has presented a great presentation and a deep knowledge of surgery, surgery risk, surgery navigation, and really focus on uh, all imagined parts and the details structure of this CT scan. Really, hats of speech by by Mrs. Mukta Joshi ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. And today's chief guest, Dr. W Bakal sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your very keen and deep speech. Thank you, sir. President IETE, who has presented and accepted our invitation and graced this occasion. Thank you, both of you. I express my gratitude to Dr. Madhuri Joshi ma'am and Engineer Kishore Shinde sir. Because of their support, this speech and everything, the chief guest keynote speak was possible. Thank you very much, both of you. I'm so much thankful to all joined organization for celebration of this World Telecommunication and Information Society Day. Our first organization, IEEE Pune section, Chairman Engineer Girish Khilari sir, and Secretary Dr. Neha Sharma ma'am. Thank you very much, IEEE Pune. Another collaboration with IETE Pune, Chairman Dr. R.D. Kharadkar sir, and Secretary Dr. V.V. Shetty sir. Thank you very much, both of you. Your support is really very useful to make this success of this event. And again, the third coordination, that is IET Pune, Chairman Dr. Hiwale sir and Secretary Dr. Anuradha Thakre ma'am. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot for make this event very successful. I wish to present a sincere thanks to all the supporter of this particular event, that is Engineer Jagdish Chaudhary sir, Professor M.J. Khurjekar sir, Dr. Rajeshri Jain, Engineer Davra sir, Dr. P.B. Mane, Dr. Vivek Deshpande, Professor K.V. Sakhre sir, Dr. Somani sir, Dr. Mani sir, and a special thanks to Dr. Amar Butsade sir. Because of his efforts, this WebEx platform is available to all of us. And really, it is a great event which is also available on YouTube, also available on our Facebook page. This vote of thanks will not complete without mentoring the name of our beloved and dynamic convener, Dr. Girish Mundada sir, for his continuous cooperation and overall support. I wish thank you very much for this encouragement, sir. I like to present here some of the important names like Dr. Kasat, Council IET, Engineer R.L. Srivastav, Chairman Nagpur Local Center, Engineer V.B. Singh, and Brahma Reddy sir, a council member from Institution of Engineers India. As well as I like to present a special thanks to Dr. D.S. Bormani sir, Board of Studies, Savitribai Phule University. Delegates, all these stakeholders for this event. Without your presence, this is not possible like this success. I would like to present the big thank you to all the audience who are available in this pandemic. Up till now, we heard the typical word COVID, Corona, CT scan, etc., etc. But Mukta Joshi ma'am's presentation really provided a keen knowledge of these all details about the CT, that is the chromatomology and the details of CT scan and the details. Thank you very much to all of you, and thank you all the audience. Thanks a lot.
So thank you all.
Thank you. Amar sir,
With this, yes, sir.
There are questions because we ran out of time. We have to complete the program because few people wanted to leave. So if there are any questions, we can take up that now.
Yes, so I am making unmute all. It is causing trouble noise. So if anybody having question, you can mention in the chat window.
Mukta madam, you referred the ultrasonic, what we can say, devices for the diagnosis and all that. Can you explain those things little bit? How the ultrasonic can be used?
Okay, sure. So ultrasound uses high frequency sound waves that can penetrate through tissue, but as it goes through different layers or different materials, the sound is bounced back. So the probe has both a generator of ultrasonic waves and it also has a receiver. That's why it's called a transducer. And it calculates when the wave was sent and when the echo was received back. And with that knowledge, it is able to create this image that you see. So a lot of us, I think, are familiar with, I don't know, prenatal ultrasounds, or ultrasounds are done for liver imaging. They are these probes that you hold in your hand, and they put gel because you need to not have you need to have a good what's the right word? Seamless connection between the ultrasound needs to be on the skin. If it encounters an air pocket, it's going to reflect back. So as you know, sound, as it goes through different media, it tends to reflect back as the transitions happen. So so you are familiar, if you've ever had an ultrasound or seen somebody, they have a probe in their hand, and then they put a gel, and then they image and look at different angles for anatomy that they're looking for. It's different than a CT or an MR, which has a frame of reference and you are scanning an entire body. It's a very localized scanning, and you really need to know what you're looking for and what it should look like when you do the scan. But that's essentially the principle. I don't know if you want to have a specific question around it.
Thank you, madam. Thank you. Thanks.
Hello, madam. This is Dr. Bormane. Just I want to ask one question regarding medical imaging technology. Which is the best medical imaging technology?
Well, if there was a best, the others would have died off, right? So it really depends on what your application is. And there's also many factors, right? Each of these modalities have a different cost associated with them. So for example, it's a funny story. When magnetic resonance imaging was discovered or invented, everybody thought that computer tomography, the CT, the X-ray based body imaging, was going to die off because now MR is far superior. It has the ability to differentiate all these soft tissues. So why would anybody want to do a CT? So, I mean, to the point that I believe in Philips history, Philips shut down their CT division. In GE, when I was there, they told me that GE had plans to ramp down their CT division. And instead, what happened, and they were all surprised, the CT sales went up. And so when they do this case study, it's sort of, well, why did that happen? It's because the invention of MR created a lot of awareness in the field. And then you realize the MR is extremely expensive and it's very difficult to scan with. It can take about a half an hour to 45 minutes to scan the brain. It can be very noisy. It can be, claustrophobic. So it has limitations of other kind, although it has very good image quality and it doesn't have any radiation involved. So that's what I mean. It depends on what you're trying to look for. What is the question you have? What are you trying to find? So if you have a soft tissue question, you want to look at different tendons and ligaments and things like that, you want to do an MR. If you want to see deep brain structures and different parts of the brain or even functional brain, you want to do an MR. But if you want to very quickly find out, is there a bleed in the brain? Is there a tumor? You want to do a CT because it gives you answer very fast. It's cheaper. It's available. That's because it's cheaper. It's available, in most hospitals. So it really depends, and ultrasound is much cheaper. It can be point of care. You can have an ultrasound in a doctor's office. So it really depends what you're looking for. Each modality has its strengths and weaknesses.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you, madam, for your elaborate answer, and really congratulations for a wonderful session. We enjoyed a lot and got very
Thank you so
new
much.
inputs from you. Thank you.
Madam, I want to raise a question. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, yes, indeed. Please go ahead.
The only question is on the CT, that what about the hazard of X-rays which are still being considered there, and then they consider MRI as a better one?
The hazard of X-ray. Yeah, like I mentioned, indeed, X-ray does have the radiation risk involved. So as I showed you in one of my slides, there is a lot of effort to bring that X-ray dose down as much as possible while maintaining the image quality. The risk, you always have to do a risk-benefit analysis, right? And the risk that the X-ray radiation poses can be much smaller than the benefit of being able to see what you need to see in a timely way in a broad part of your body. So again, there is what's called like an algorithm for decision. When do you use which modality? In a trauma situation where you have multiple injuries and time is of essence, you don't know where the problems may be. It could be internal bleeding. You want to be put on a CT machine because it's fast, it's accurate, it's high resolution. It does not have that much radiation. At that point, the risk benefit is much more benefit than risk. It's for repeated scans and people where they haven't optimized their radiation dose that a CT scan is worrisome. But because of the awareness of radiation risk, people are making it much more optimized. So you want to be careful with pediatric population, for example. But even there, sometimes you see more than you're going to harm. So if long as you do a conscious choice and you do the weighing of the risk versus benefit, then it's not a problem. I think it offers a lot more than it harms.
Thanks. Can I get your email and then raise a few questions afterwards?
Absolutely.
Madam, just one question which all of us in India are facing. Does it really take so much time to manufacture ventilators? Yeah, because as engineers, all of us know that since the technology is there, I personally don't feel that. So as an expert working in Philips, can you just comment on this? Because this is a question of the hour. Really, all of us may be wondering why it is taking so long.
So to be honest, though, it depends what so long is. I think it's all relative, right? When in a time of urgency and when you have somebody that you need to get the ventilator to, even an hour is too long. I think Philips was able to ramp up their production quite a bit. If you read not just Philips but many companies, you have to retool your manufacturing to be able to produce these, right? You want to maintain your quality because this is a medical device. You don't want to cause a different problem. You know, these machines are to be used carefully and to be manufactured and distributed carefully. So you have to be able to scale while keeping everything else, the quality, the regulation, all of the testing that you need along the way to stay the same, but go faster. So, but I do believe that a lot of manufacturing centers ramped up their ability to produce quite a bit, two, if not threefold. And if you had asked them to do that before the pandemic, it would have been taken them a year to do it. Instead, they did it in weeks. So it's all relative, right? How we see what is a long time. So that's all I can say. I mean, there are proper designs that have already been approved that should be used. These are medical devices that have gone through a regulatory approval and testing. So you don't want to modify the design. You have to create a manufacturing facility that can produce these. So it depends on all the supply chain and all the different parts and the assembly. That's where it takes time, and that's where people look at increasing efficiency, but keeping the quality the same. So that's all I can say.
It was because this question was of severe intensity in India at least. So
I
just
know it has been worldwide.
out of the context, but I thought that since you are an expert, you would be able to give your expert views on what actually took so much time. So thank you for your answer, ma'am.
No problem.
Thank you. Ajay Thakre, sir, you wanted to speak something?
Hello. Joshi madam is saying something.
Dr. M.A. Joshi.
Hi.
Yes, madam.
Yeah. Acha, okay. Let ma'am finish.
So, Mukta, I want you congratulate you giving such an enlightened lecture, such a learned audience all over the world. Really, I'm proud of you. And I am very happy that you have kept the name of COEP very high.
Thank you,
We
ma'am.
have
So
worked
much.
together on image processing in 2001. I really admire your further research work, the image processing area. I have only one question, or rather a note, that in whole this research, data plays an important role. How much data you collect is very important, an issue. So, and how you really understand the data, perceive the data, and how you actually test the data for its authenticity.
Yes.
Whether you have a particular result in mind to get, to how to reach that particular result, and what's the probability of getting towards a proper result. It's a very difficult challenge to go from unknown to known when everything is unknown.
Yes, no, you bring up a very good point. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's what I wanted to also address in that slide I showed on AI. As much as everybody, wants to do AI, which is fine, it's a tool. You have to use it properly. What there's a classic saying, right? Garbage in, garbage out. So if you don't have good quality data, good quality annotations, quality control on all the steps along the way, you will not get a good result. So you want to be very aware of the problem, the intended use of what your algorithm is trying to address, and accordingly make sure your data is collected for that. And then you have to manage that data. You have to separate that data from testing and validation data. So all of this has to be carefully managed. And in fact, the FDA is putting out guidance on how they expect this to be done, what they expect to be documented on your methodology, and where you got the data, how you process the data, that you have mechanisms to separate the data from training versus validation. So absolutely, the data is the key to everything, but it's also where you have to be very careful what you consider data, how you manage it, how you keep a quality check on it. So it's the biggest issue in AI.
Again, congrats.
Thank you so much, madam. And I really appreciate all your guidance throughout my education when I was at COEP. And now again to meet, to connect back, it's really an honor, and I'm very happy to see you again. I think Thakre sir had a question.
I don't have a question actually. I wanted to appreciate because it's always wonderful to listen alumni. I'm 1990 batch.
That's great. I can't hear you anymore.
You are not audible, Ajay Thakre sir.
Analysis, I remember. So it's really a matter to get back and really listen to it. It's been a really great technical treat. I thank Dr. Bakal sir, Dr. Mukta madam, Dr. Karat, Dr. Hivale, Davra sir, Kishore Shende, Bormane sir, all these are, our mentors at back at all the IET. And today perhaps is a very special day. It was just floating on the WhatsApp also that today is 21st of May. So it is the 21st day, 21st week if you count down, and 21st year of the 21st century. So on this very auspicious day, IET Pune Center has organized this in collaboration with the 4 professional societies. So as Girish Mundra sir has rightly said, he has assured us share. So on the similar lines, I got inspired and I just want to present a share, a 2-line share. Professional societies, 4 गौर कीजिएगा, 4 प्रोफेशनल सोसाइटीज IEEE, IET, IET एंड IE, 4 प्रोफेशनल सोसाइटीज आज शाम में ज्वाइन हुए हैं और इस वर्ल्ड टेलीकम्युनिकेशन सेलिब्रेशन को सही मायने में 4 चांद लगे, सही मायने में 4 चांद लगे. Thank you. And it's been wonderful, Mukta, and I'm going to drop our photos on our COEP 1990 batch, and they will all really be very happy to see you back. Thank you. It was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir,
if anybody else want to speak? Yes, sir. Yes, Dr. Kasat, sir. Sir, you are not audible. Dr. Kasat, sir, you are not audible.
Yeah, now we can.
Okay. So, good evening to all the dignitaries, and I really heartily congratulate Dr. Kharadkar, sir, who is the chairman of IET Pune Center, one of the biggest center across my West Zone. As a West Zone mentor of IET, I really congratulate to Kharadkar, sir, and his team. Special congratulations to Girish Mundra, sir, as convener of this program, and the 4 societies as told earlier, IEI, IET, IET, and all other societies like IEEE also. And Mukta madam, one of my elder brother, Mr. Pravesh Kaset, is with you in Netherlands. He is my younger brother, not elder as such. I am the elder brother. And lastly, I congratulate आणि मराठीत बोलतो, as we all are maximum from Marathi, and really आम्हाला तुमचा अभिमान आहे. आज खूप दिवसानंतर एक खूप चांगलं लेक्चर ऐकायला मिळालं with the quality content. So thank you. Thanks a lot, madam. Thank you very much. And thanks to Pune Center for providing this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kasat sir.
मराठीत चालेल?
Yes, sir.
मराठी ख्याल में है ना उधर?
Thank you, Kasat sir.
Thank you, Kasat sir.
Thank you. If anybody wish to speak, we are towards the close of program. So,
sir, one question, madam.
Sure.
I'm Kishore Shende from Pune IETE. Yet you just take that open surgery and MIS. I feel that MIS must have started from heart and now it is doing in all the organs. So is it that slowly open surgery will be taken over by this MIS, and it will be very useful, because I myself have gone a small surgery like that, and I am feeling.
Your audio cut off.
3 audio. Now can you hear?
Yeah, I can hear.
So I experienced on myself that it is very useful, and I recovered within 3 days. So that is a very good that you explained, and I really got the importance how that MIS is, and I think it is developing very fast, as you said. So can you little bit give something on that, how it started from heart and how it went to other organs like that?
I'll try. So indeed, one of the first applications was through the heart. So what they were able to do was go through your veins or arteries really, and put a catheter into your arteries to then make its way to the heart. So instead of doing an open heart surgery and trying to bypass the artery that was blocked, and then that is a very risky surgery and takes many hours and many months to recover from. There are conditions, of course, you can't avoid that you might need that, but they were able to find many other scenarios where you could just go through the artery with a catheter and then enter the artery that was blocked and open it. So then it was really mechanical questions, right? How do you open this artery? So what they then came up with these balloons, right? They were able to put the balloon on the catheter and then deploy it. Like they actually have a pump and they pump air into the balloon and they open the balloon. And sometimes that's enough to open the artery because it's been constricted by maybe fatty plaque, as they call it, cholesterol deposits. But sometimes it's hardened plaque, and in the balloon is not enough to open it. So then the artery walls are also affected. So you don't want to push the balloon too much. The artery wall, if it's weakened, it can rupture. So then they added stents onto it. A stent is literally a metal scaffolding. So then they deploy the balloon, they put a stent on top of the balloon, and then they open the stent and deflate the balloon and take it out so that now the stent, the scaffolding, sits in the wall of the artery and helps it to stay open. So this is how it started. And of course, once you think about this, then they're like, well, we can go through arteries to many organs. So they are vascular, obviously. So not just the vessels of the heart, but the vessels of any part of your body, especially peripheral arteries. You know, people with diabetes or other reasons can have constrictions in these arteries. So they open those up, and then the blood supply to the feet can be improved. But then this way of thinking can be applied to many different organs. So that's how it started. Now, minimally invasive procedure doesn't just apply to this artery-based access. So that's sort of the catheterization. So you do stroke through that as well. You know, you go through the arteries of the brain and try to open up for stroke problems. But another type of minimally invasive is these laparoscopic surgeries. As you know, they do optical cameras inside the catheters. And then what we saw with the spine surgery. So the spinal surgery was not obviously through arteries, but was really opening the back and trying to put screws into these vertebrae. But it's still quite an invasive procedure. So to try and minimize the incision amount, when you have all these images that you can superimpose, so you take a preoperative CT and you can actually overlay the CT on top of the patient in a virtual manner. Then you don't have to image that often. You also don't have to open and make a larger incision. So that's how it's evolving. And so people are constantly thinking of where else can I apply this? So you saw all the different structures I showed you, all the different areas where we are as image-guided therapy playing a role. If you recall, it was coronaries, other parts of the heart, so structural heart, electrophysiology, where you have the arrhythmia in the heart. So there's many heart-related things. Then you have vascular and neuro that I mentioned. Then you have oncology. So if you have lesions, you can again go through the arteries and do targeted therapy. So you deliver the drug into the lesion, or you deliver, or you can even do what's called chemoembolism. So you can apply and, like I said, deliver the drug there, but sometimes you can also do ablation. So they use heat or RF frequencies to destroy the tissue. You could do that by deploying it through the arteries and vessels that supply the tumor. And then we talked about spine. So these are the major areas. I think they cover most parts of the body. So indeed, it started with the heart. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Last question, please. I think Prakash Patil sir wanted to ask. Prakash Patil sir.
Everything is coming there.
Prakash Patil sir, can you please ask your question? Thank you. I think he got disconnected. So
Thank you. Thank you all. So it was excellent session. With this, we conclude that World Telecommunication
Amar sir,
and Information.
Amar,
okay.
Can we have a group photo? Digital.
Yes, we can have.
Yeah, but because actually that is a member race, right? That is a very important one.
Okay.
I wish to request all of you, please switch on your camera so that will take a copy photo.
I just wanted to set the record straight, by the way. I am batch of 1996 from COEP.
Okay.
Sir, is done?
No, not yet, sir. All have not started their camera. Start your camera, sir. I request all the audience, please start your camera.
Really enjoyed the
Yeah,
Shakti.
so I am capturing photo. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mukta Joshi ma'am.
Thank you all. Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Mukta sir.
Madam.
Thank you, madam.
Fine, fine lecture. Very good lecture.
Thank you.
Thank you
Deep
and
knowledge.
congratulations to all chairmen and secretaries.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Yeah, yeah.